What's going on, everyone? Give a Thought back here today talking about Dragon Quest, in particular Dragon Quest Heroes 2. A big part of playing Japanese games is worrying about whether their sequels will get localized. It's something of a problem, especially when it comes to more underground games. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, Dragon Quest has stayed in that sort of below the radar space in the US. I wish I knew why because of the success of Final Fantasy here, but I guess it's just the facts. So let's move on to the subject at hand. If you happen to miss out on the first Dragon Quest Heroes, which you probably did given the sales numbers, which I will discuss later, the first entry was one of those Dynasty Warrior type games. A similar game that did quite well was the Hyrule Warriors game that focused around the Zelda universe. It just took Zelda characters and put them in the Dynasty Warriors type of game, and that's exactly what this game does. It takes characters from all the classic Dragon Quest games and puts them in a hack and slash environment. And it turned out pretty well as far as I'm concerned. Dragon Quest Heroes received generally positive reviews. On Metacritic it got a 77 out of 100, which proved it was pretty well received. Before we answer the question of whether the sequel will be localized, we first have to ask the question, why was the first one localized? Well, it was localized to see whether or not Dragon Quest would sell in the US market, and more specifically, the console market. Unfortunately, Dragon Quest games have not sold well here. The only exception I can think of is Dragon Quest IX on the DS. It sold around 1 million copies, I think, if I'm remembering that right. But all the others have lost Square Enix money when they localized them, because they're such text-heavy games. But according to Yu Miyake, the executive producer for the franchise, Heroes got chosen for localization where other games had been passed on because it is an action game, where all the characters are fully voiced. We see here that bringing this game westward actually didn't cost as much money for Square Enix. So if it's cheap, why wouldn't they bring the sequel here? Now is where we get into the sales numbers. In Japan, it's actually the best-selling game on the PS4, not including sales bundles. So it's easy to see why a sequel was made in the first place. The sales numbers for the US were pretty hard to find, but I think I come to the conclusion that it was around 31,000 copies sold in the first month. And for a big-budget game like this, that is abysmal. The last Square Enix game to be localized was I Am Setsuna, and it sold double those numbers in less time with half the budget, even with a lower Metacritic score. So with just that data to go on, I personally can't see the sequel coming west. One other reason that makes me think the sequel is staying in Japan is that the Dragon Quest 7 and 8 remakes were announced for the 3DS. And since that announcement, there has been plenty of time to announce that Dragon Quest Heroes 2 is coming to the West, but we've yet to see anything of the sort. With all that said, I can't say I'm too disappointed that we won't get this sequel, because I loved revisiting Yangus and Jessica again after Dragon Quest 8, and if you didn't know, Dragon Quest 8 is my favorite game of all time, but Dragon Quest Heroes did get a bit stale towards the end. I've just been replaying Dragon Quest Heroes while I'm waiting for No Man's Sky to come out, and it made me think about the possibility of us getting the sequel. But that is about all I have for today. If you enjoyed this video, please check out my other Dragon Quest content. In particular, look at the Dragon Quest XI video I did. I go into some of the details that we know about the game so far, especially the way the 3DS version has 2 different graphic styles. And while you're at it, click that annotation up there to subscribe to my channel. And while I'm talking about subscribers, I just wanted to say personally, thank you to all you new guys. It really means a lot. But that's about it. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. And remember, give thought to everything,